Welcome, friends and family. I'm so excited to be coming here with you today from our Elevate studio. I am with one of the most extraordinary women I have ever met, Miss Lindsay Castelli, my wife, and I'm so excited to be sharing in this journey with Lindsay. Lindsay had the privilege, as we walked through this book, Make Today Count by John Maxwell, Lindsay had the opportunity to share on this chapter, faith. And I thought this is the perfect thing for Lindsay to be sharing on is her faith, because she has some of the greatest courage of anybody I ever know. If there's one thing that really attracted me to Lindsay when I first met her, outside of her being such a beautiful lady, was her courage. That really helped Lindsay get out of the pile. Like she just totally really, it impressed me to see a single female willing to travel all the way from Great Britain, 3,000 miles over that little mud puddle to land here in America and have the courage to go all around the world. Lindsay, thank you for being here with us today.
It's good to be here.
Yeah, it is a complete pleasure to be interviewing you today. I've come prepared with a few questions, and I'd like to get right into those if we may.
Sure.
Okay, so Lindsay, when you think about the word faith, how do you define it? Like what does faith look like to you in your everyday life? If you could unpack that for us. What's your definition of faith?
Well, I know you just threw these questions on me pretty like a couple of minutes ago, but you know what jumps to mind is like the stepping stones. You know, when the Bible talks about Peter coming out of the boat onto the water, you know, he really had someone on the other side guiding him. And so, you know, faith to me is it's a growth thing. It doesn't start big. It starts little by little stepping stones, one step at a time.
Oh, I like that. So not like faith ain't something that's like way out there per se. It's something that you can gradually grow to.
Yeah, I think it's you got to grow your faith. You know, it's an action.
Okay, great. So I agree with that, and that's perfect for our next question. Please share with us one of your greatest faith stories, one of those moments where faith truly carried you, shaped you, and changed the direction of your whole life. Like, where's faith come into your life?
Well, you know, we only get to visit people where they're at today. We don't know their backstory unless we ask them. We see people, John Maxwell always talks about, you know, everybody wants to do what John Maxwell did, but are they willing to go through all the sacrifices he went to get to where he is today? And I think when they see you, Elijah, I mean, you've got a book coming out next year, and it's going to be How to Elevate Your Rental Wealth. And so everybody wants to do what you do, but taking the time to get with those people and finding out where they started, what they did, what they didn't do. That's kind of like why I love Elevate, is because we saw what agents weren't receiving from companies, and we gathered a whole team, a whole company, a whole community around that to be able to fill in those gaps, to have that net so they didn't fall through the cracks and they were trying to follow their dreams, but there was no process. So, you know, coming here to America was a huge dream that I had, that my best friend told me at 17 years old that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to live in America, and I'd forgotten about that dream, but she hadn't. But it didn't start with, it ended, well, I won't say it's ended, it's still going on, it's still getting bigger and better. And so, but it started with a nudge, it started with a stepping stone, and it was traveling an hour, then 3 hours, then a couple of days, then a couple of weeks, then traveling outside the country, and that's the stepping stones we're talking about. You know, coming to America is huge. Somewhere where you didn't have friends and family. I worked on cruise ships, but it was just little by little, just step by step, and it was just like application after application, just growing the snowball effect. So hopefully that helps you to understand that, you know, we see where we are today, but it started small.
Yeah, that's so good, and you're right. You know, I think a lot of people might look at you and just think, wow, this amazing lady moved here from Great Britain, flew 3,000 miles over that little mud puddle, and boom, landed in America. And I guess that, you know, even if you're me, that may have been all I seen. But I forget working on Holland America, on the cruise ships, going all over the world.
That was scary, you know. I look back and think when I was younger, and I had to take a train ride from Manchester to London. And of course, to me, you've got all the different trains, left, right, centre, everywhere, roundabouts, right? And I remember calling my mom, Mom, I'm lost, I don't know where I'm going, come pick me up. And she was like, I'm not coming, just get back on the train, go the opposite way and ask someone. And that was a 3-hour train ride. And then, of course, you know, that allotted and snowballed to traveling all around the world. So again, it starts small.
That's so good, so good. Hey, Winston Churchill, he once said, success is going from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. And I think the success is a great word. I think we could have used faith right there. Faith is going from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. We've heard the story of Thomas Edison. It took him how many times to create the light bulb? Thousands of times. So entrepreneurs are at their core, they're problem solvers. And that's the way I see you, Lindsay. I see you as somebody that is a tremendous problem solver. I think you actually like problems. I think you like sometimes the challenge of trying to solve a problem, crack a code, crack a riddle. So Lindsay, can you share with us how your faith helped you on the journey of becoming a co-founder of Elevate Real Estate less than 2 years ago? How did faith help you push through challenges, uncertainties, or even setbacks along the way?
Gotcha. In a nutshell, I would say what I've learned so much being around you, Elijah, is the core purpose, core values, mission, and purpose. If you don't have that in front of you where you're going, I think you're going to give up early. And one thing that I've really learned is commitment. You know, when I see people fail or fall off and don't make a commitment, you know, we're coming up to the end of the year, we're going to have those New Year's resolution. And so why don't we follow through on that? Sometimes that commitment was too big, but maybe we didn't tell people and they didn't hold us accountable to that. Or we did tell people because that dream is too, as Tom Ziegler says, the BHAG. Big,
Hairy, audacious
goals. And so I think sometimes we forget the stepping stones and how to get there. And so what I love about Elevate is we take a whole year goal. We don't just break it down into quarterly to monthly, but we break it down to weekly. So it's only 5 things a week. And they will attain to the next, to the next. And of course you have Elijah, you know, yourself, who comes beside us and coaches us, asks those questions. And then we have training. And I think that in a nutshell is how we can obtain those goals. And of course, having those weekly meetings. We have weekly meetings with all our staff and our team members. I think all those things, again, the huge purpose, you know, why do you do what you do? Why do you get up every day? What is it about it that motivates you? What do you enjoy? And so I think you're always just a great encourager. You encourage me, you help the team members. You just are able to see the things that sometimes we don't see about ourselves too. And so having that encouragement, and I think that's anything in life, you just need that cheerleader, and that should be your spouse, right?
Yeah. True. Yeah, and that's, you know, again, you're piggybacking off Winston said there, success, or we might even take that word out, success, and say faith, but I think faith leads you to success. Is going from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. So having accountability, some people around you to hold you accountable, have some enthusiasm, somebody to encourage you along the way. If it happens to be your spouse, what a blessing. That should be the way it is. I don't know if everybody feels that way, but it is a blessing when your partner who is running beside you. Lindsay and I, we've heard it a couple times this year about those 2 horses that in the fair. We heard it at the River Church this weekend, and you reminded me of that there. It was talking about, they had a missionary come speak, and he had this picture up of these 2 big, strong horses. And they would get together at the fair back in the days, now we're talking like 1800s here, before they had cell phones, video games, they would bring these horses out at the fair, and they'd have a horse pulling contest. And every year this one horse would haul off and beat everybody. This year they had a strong challenger come along, and the one horse pulled 7,000, the other one come and she pulled 8,000, and together that was like 15,000. Well, somebody had the brilliant idea, hey, let's yoke these 2 horses together. Let's see how far they could pull together, right? So everybody's thinking like 15,000. Well, again, we've heard this story a couple times this year. It wasn't 15,000, it wasn't 16, 17, 18. It was like 24,000 together. So 2 is better than 1. Accountability in your life. So if you have some goals, you have some dreams, speak them out loud. Don't be scared. And then have somebody around you that's going to help hold you accountable and get you there. And that is the value of a good coach, good mentors. Those are people you and I have had, like Tom Ziegler. You mentioned him. What a great friend, mentor, coach. These are people that are trying not to just add value to their own lives, but trying to give back because they've been given so much.
And I think, you're going to have your down days. You're going to have the days when they're not so good. And you got to share those too. Not every day is going to be perfect. Not every hour is going to be perfect. You're going to get hurt. You're going to give up. But if that purpose and that why is big enough and you've shared that, then you share that with that team member, that friend, that spouse, whoever it is. And, you just take every day as it comes and you just get back on and don't give up. And I think that's what I love about being around this community, is that we are encouragers. And you got to be intentional, right? I mean, I always pray with my kids and say, be a good finder and a hope filler. And I got that from Zig Ziglar because it's perspective. You can look at the person and think the worst, or you can look at the person and bring out the best. So it's definitely intentional. We have words for the year, and mine next year is intentional. So
Intentional. Love it. So Lindsay, I'm sure some of our listening audience out there today would like to know, how can you be a phenomenal business owner, co-founder, and also not really actually run, but oversee the day-to-day operations of the Elevate community, and still be an amazing mother of 2 children, our children, Noah 14, Emmy 12, who I know you stayed up till late last night. It was you who got the opportunity after 11 o'clock to go pick up Noah from the basketball game, and still here at the office this morning by 7:30. So tell us, Lindsay, I'm sure there's a lot of folks out there that are really wondering, probably especially ladies, like, how do you use your faith to be, to run a company, to have the vision to help create a company and still be a phenomenal mother of 2 children? How does your faith help you activate that?
I appreciate that. I think what comes to mind is a lot of prayer life. Being still. It's easy to just lay in bed and just kind of start thinking, I should have done this, shoulda, woulda, coulda. And I think getting into a good routine, love Jim Brown. There's 2 people that can plan the day, or the day will plan you. And so I think for me is having a good AM. I love to get up and just read and just be still, pray, talk to God anywhere, be outside. You need that vitamin D. And so that AM schedule is huge. And of course, when you get into a routine, you just naturally will wake up. I had to go to bed early in order to wake up early. So again, accountability is huge. You teaching us to major on the 3 majors, that is huge. You can have, I'm a big checklist person. I'll write something down just to check it off. But if I'm doing these 20 things but not being super productive, I can be busy for the sake of being busy. So I think major on the 3 majors. And again, I think community. I couldn't do what I'm doing without a great team, operations team around us, yourself, sales team, everybody, your dad. I mean, it's community. Couldn't do it. Couldn't do it alone.
Gotcha. Yeah, and so many women, you've said this, that so many women think they've got to be Superwoman. They've got to put the cape on. And you said one day you may write a book.
Called Tear the Cape.
Tear the Cape off.
Just be transparent.
Be
say,
real.
I'm messed up. I need help.
Yeah, and that's how we get ahead in life. I don't know, I was telling Noah the other day, one of the quickest ways to get ahead in life is to ask, how do I get ahead? Who can help me in this
Own it.
area? Right, and own your, I may butcher this, Lindsay, I hope I don't, but Winston Churchill, what a phenomenal leader of his time, led during one of the toughest times, one of the darkest hours of Great Britain, when your grandparents were maybe around to see when the bombings were actually taking place in Britain. This phenomenal leader, Winston Churchill, comes to the top and just God ordained for this time. And he says this, he says, success is not final, failure is not fatal. It's the courage to continue on that counts. And when you apply that to your life in the word faith, like how do you see that when you hear Winston Churchill say that success is not final, failure is not fatal. It's the courage to carry on that counts. Like, how do you see that? I mean, this man had tons of faith. There's no doubt about it. How does that apply in your life currently?
You know, just what you just said apply. I think how do people build courage, build confidence? I believe it's Howard Patrick talks about FTI. You've got to apply. You've got to mean what you say and say what you mean. If hold to a responsibility and follow through. And it's just, again, it's stepping stones. It may be meeting with a friend, meet with that friend. It may be going on an appointment, go on that appointment. You know, don't overcommit and underdeliver. Do the opposite. And so I think, again, it's stepping stones. I'd like to not heard his biography of where he started, but I'm sure he started small stepping stones and just grew his faith in the fact that he just became so courageous, that he became a big risk taker because of his experience that he went through.
And that's you, Lindsay Castelli. You're a big risk taker because obviously you bet on me, you bet on Elevate, and you knew that you had a lot of courage, obviously, as a female coming to a whole different country, driving on a totally different side of the road. Your courage was pretty strong, but I love what you're telling our listening audience today. And some of the main takeaways I got from today listening to you, one is start where you're at. Grow your faith. Little steps.
And apply it.
Little steps at a time. And that is, I wrote it down right here too, and then apply what you know. Actually, knowing it's one thing, applying it is the FTI, failure to implement. It's the applying it that will get you across the bridge instead of frozen on the bridge or looking at the other side. And then you talked about having a good AM. You know, if you're going to have a full day, having a good AM counts, and you said it's what you do a lot of times during the PM that will help you get to your AM.
Yes. Yes.
And then one thing that really stood out to me was know your purpose. Know your purpose. When you don't know your purpose, you said you think that's when people give up easily. So when you have no purpose, no goal, no vision.
Commitment, lack of commitment. You know, that's what you see. But I want to say this, is that I couldn't do any of that without God. It wasn't about me. It was that I had dreams. You know, the Bible says, man plans his way, the Lord directs his steps. And so, you know, before I was 28, I wasn't born again, but I was seeking. I tried everything possible and still came around the mountain. And it wasn't until I really just laid all my life, everything at the feet of Jesus, and it was just something happened. And so I just gave it to God, and God is what got me here. God is what gets me every day. It's not Lindsay, it's God. So I give him the glory, not on me.
Amen. And, you know, God definitely plays a big part in faith. And the Bible even says, and I love what you just said, because the Bible makes it very clear, now abides faith, hope, and love, the greatest of these being love. He also said, though we have the faith so that we can move mountains. And some people have that faith, that mountain moving faith like you do. But we don't have love, then I'm nothing. And so at the end of the day, you know, a faith without a love, it's without a purpose bigger than ourselves. If it's all about Lindsay, that's a dead faith. And yeah, you could move mountains, you could blow them up like dynamite, but at the end of the day, what have you obtained?
Right.
So knowing that you're fulfilling God's purpose for your life and doing it for the right heart and the right reason, that's what gets us across the bridge, gets us up on the tough days. Folks, I hope this adds some value to you. I believe it will. And I also believe there's other people out there that would love to hear what Lindsay has taught and talked about here today. If you would, please like and share. I hope you all have a great rest of your week. Thank you.